Welcome back, and I'm a little bit late to the party, but here is the MB151C. It's the event vehicle, or the battle pass, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it is a premium. And I'm sad to tell you that it's incredibly French. The plane is not really that fantastic. The flight performance especially is very much lacking due to the lack of an engine. And I'm pretty certain that if I were to put my motorcycle on a 20-degree incline, it would actually reach a kilometer faster than this thing would. It is incredibly underpowered, but of course most of the things are at this battle rating, so that's not instantly a massive issue. I mean, look at something like the BF-109s, and no, I don't mean the Cs that I'm absolutely piecing apart right here. When you look at the E's or the B, for example, they aren't the most agile, and it very much feels comparable to this, except they actually have a functional engine that would push more than just a lawnmower ahead. This thing just simply doesn't. And then we have to go to the guns. We have the 7.5mm and we have 1200 rounds, and that might seem like a decent deal because the damage is actually pretty damn good as long as you look at the DPS factor. The issue is that it has such an obscene rate of fire that the 1200 rounds is like using a shotgun and counting every pellet as an individual bullet. The 1200 rounds is good for maybe 6 kills here and there. It's gonna happen once in this video, but overall it's mostly good for 4-ish if your aim is okay. Don't use the tracer belt, and I'll give you an example of why in a little bit here. But first, let's take a look at the patented rank 1 gameplay, where I only play against the best players in the game, because of course that's where everyone gathers. In reality, at rank 1, most of the players you're gonna face aren't the best. Take all the maneuvers with a grain of salt. If you are gonna fight better players, it's very likely that you aren't going to win in this thing, or at least not very often. Now, if you are watching this and you see yourself die in the background, don't feel too bad. The game is incredibly hard to pick up, and that's just how it is. Especially in the early hours, this game can be extremely demotivating, and I can't blame you if you were to quit, but it would be a shame if you do think the game is fun and the issue is just not playing well and dying a lot, not getting a lot of kills. I can help you with that. I have a lot of videos on my channel, a lot of guides. Basically every plane has been reviewed. Some of them are outdated, but other than the matchmaker, most of them stay relatively the same. But enough plugging, enough motivational talk or whatever. Let's take a look at some gameplay after we finally down the Dornier 17Z. Now, when you have barely any ammo, bombers are a pain in the dick, but, you know, at low tier, a lot of guys have low cruise, so you might be able to shoot them in the cockpit and just kill them instantly. Enough of that. Let's take a look at the gameplay. Right here, I'm above the Bay 65. Now, I'm gonna go slightly to the left to increase the distance of him to shoot at us. Means he has to climb up further, loses more energy, and puts himself in a worse position, while not really costing us anything other than a slight amount of positioning, but because of the energy that we have, this means literally nothing. We drop back down, we destroy him, he is stalled out, and it doesn't really matter how little engine power you have when you have almost a kilometer of altitude with a more maneuverable airframe. So we dive on top of him, we destroy him, and then we notice the Heinkel 112, and I can do the exact same thing to him right here. The issue is that this Heinkel 51, GG my friend, is gonna be above me, and I do not want to deal with a Heinkel 51 that is above me. Dealing with biplanes is incredibly annoying, and this goes for zeros and the very agile planes in every tier basically. You do not want these things above you because they can dive on you, and if something like a zero or a biplane can dive on you, especially if your plane isn't that quick, because this thing definitely isn't, it hardly goes faster than my car, you know, you don't want to be in that position. So I'm gonna keep my altitude and fly over to the Heinkel 51. The Heinkel 112 is never gonna catch us in the near future, so I can kind of deal with the biplane and then switch on over to the Heinkel if he does think about turning to us. We go head on with the Heinkel 51, we get some shots in, the guns do absolutely nothing, and we just go vertical again. We can do this because we dove on him, the Heinkel 51 was essentially stalled out, and we're just gonna go straight up. If he tries to pitch up here, he might get a few shots off, but considering this is low tier, his guns won't do any damage anyway. And this time he stalls out, we shoot him directly in his forehead, and the guy finally goes down. Now, who do we want to go for? It's yet again the highest person. Not the highest person other than the Heinkel 51. This time, Mr. CZ, Sneepy, whatever, the Heinkel 51 on the left of your screen. He's too far away, and I'm not gonna waste all my time getting to him when I can kill people over here. I'd rather get the numbers down now so it doesn't turn into a 1v3, because then I can actually outrun the Heinkel 51 and do my thing. I merged with the BF-109A, and it's one of these setup planes in the entire game with an energy advantage. And on the top of my loop, I drop the flaps to pull into his loop, and he still manages to have a tighter turning circle than us. And that's unfortunately the sad reality of this plane. Even level 10s will outplay you sometimes, even when you do everything right, because the plane gap is simply that big. Now we saw his entire tail off, which seems a little bit excessive, but again, we are talking about using a shotgun. And this is the only plane in props, other than the MiG-15 BIS and the MiG-17, where I use vertical targeting with 300 meters. We know this, but this isn't about the convergence, this is only about the crosshair and like the angle of the guns. This is the only plane where I use a different convergence, and it's 300 meters, because if you use anything more than that, this plane just has no stopping power whatsoever. Now we have the S-81 here, which is essentially just a worse SM-79. We pitch into him, we set him on fire, and we are gonna dive to the deck. Now you might say, why are you showing us, well, destroying bombers? There's really nothing to take away from that, and you're right. But we went for this guy first because he was at altitude, and the Junker 87 is still on the deck. So after going for that bomber, I can now dive to the deck, and I can go for Mr. Stuka, which is a pretty easy kill, you might say. And this is all about target prioritization, especially at these low tiers. You have to really think about your altitude, because it takes you like 6 minutes to get back up to 4.5 kilometers, and really ain't nobody got time for that. So we dive on the Stuka, and you might still think, why are you showing me killing a bomber? Well, it all makes sense in a second, because someone that we saw a little bit earlier, that I didn't want to waste my time on, is about to appear. Now we shoot at him, we get a severe damage, he hits us with the gunner, and luckily for us it doesn't instantly set us on fire. And, I mean, he's severe. It seems like he's flying straight into the ground. He's not really pulling out. He's about to become a father. And there comes the bomb. He explodes. And we go RTB. And then the Heinkel 51 shows up. Now the Heinkel 51 is not gonna catch us, because now we don't have to worry about anyone else. The issue is that the Heinkel 51 is so damn maneuverable that if I ever try to engage him in this kind of position, even if I were to be faster, he's just gonna turn around, he's gonna park himself at like 200 meters behind us, and because I have to dodge his guns, he is going to catch me. So right now, I'm just trying to bleed him off some speed, because eventually he's gonna cap out, and we cap out higher, which means that we are gonna start outrunning him. Now you can tell that the speed is dropping very rapidly, but the biplane is going to be even slower. And yes, I'm flying towards the airfield, but fret not, because I won this kill, and the AA is not about to steal mine. So even though I might have the equivalent of a singular buckshot round, I'm still gonna turn around and take the fight. Is this suicide? Basically, but he is very much underarmed. I have a little bit more firepower, I have more durability, and luckily slightly better range. We dome all the 100 rounds directly in his engine, one of them hits his pilot, and that is going to be kill number 6. Try to not let the AA play the game for you. Trust me, in the long run, you're gonna have a lot more fun playing that way. Now let's take a look at me using tracers, because we are about to get an aneurysm, trying to take a look at this damage. Now at the start it isn't too bad, but right now we're diving onto 3 guys that are all just done killing a guy on the deck, which means that we have a pretty severe energy advantage. The RA-2002 isn't really a big threat, but I do want to kill him first because he is the most agile of the bunch. And the most annoying because we are such an underpowered vehicle and so slow. So you don't want to deal with the very agile ones, because it's all about the plane performance then, and there's really nothing I can do if we are on equal footing. So I try to kill the planes with the lowest skill floor, because those, in the end of the day, pose the biggest threat when you are flying a plane like this. If you're fighting something like an Heinkel 112, even though it might be more agile at the same amount of airspeed, it is even more underpowered, and you can actually energy trap it. Whereas something that is super agile like an RA-2002, it might not have an engine, but it doesn't stall whatsoever, and it might just be able to pitch in by just putting its cursor on you. Now, in this example, I of course have like 20,000 Big Macs worth of energy on this guy, so it's really not as applicable, but that's exactly why I want to go for him right now. I need to kill this guy as he's literally useless, and he doesn't have a way of fighting back, because in the late game, a plane like this will absolutely ruin your game. Especially if you are in something, well, that is incredibly French like this thing is. Stuka comes in, we're gonna try to fly underneath him. Might make him crash, might not. But we just want to make sure that we fly over his guns. And he goes straight into the ground. Thank you very much for playing the game. Now here comes another Heinkel 112. There's another one in the middle of the map. And then we have another BF-109 that is about to take off. Now here, we are just going to climb away for a little bit. And then we merge towards the middle of the game again. Now if you haven't noticed, yeah, other than people crashing in the background, this engine overheats constantly, which is another annoying attribute. Now you can use manual engine controls, however the prop pitch is not automatic and you can over rev it, so I opt not to use it other than the initial climb. Now we merge with the Heinkel 112, we go up, because we have slightly more energy, we go into the web and it looks like he's about to get a shot here, but he doesn't have the energy. So after that first shot that I dodged, we just go straight up and he is not going to be able to pitch up after us, because if he does, he's going to stall out, go 200, and I will be able to just hose him until he finally explodes. Now the issue is that I have 740 rounds left, which is basically like 3 shotgun shells. So here we get a decent angle. Look at those hits. It does absolutely nothing. And I'm using tracers here. And something like the Heinkel 112 is pretty heavily armored. That's also why it's so damn slow. It is way too overweight. But it also means that guns like these just do literal 0 damage. Now we have this guy by the balls. They are completely drained. And I just want to make sure that I sit behind him. I'm trying to kind of just park behind him, use my energy and make multiple approaches. Now the issue is that this is not the only person in the enemy team. And if I had known that these guns were gonna give me this hard of a time, I wouldn't have played it this passively and I would have tried to throttle drop him a little bit earlier. Another Heinkel 112 shows up right there and now I feel a little bit hasted. And I'm gonna try to wrap this up as quickly as I can. Now right here I can't really kill him. But I'm gonna offset my circle and instead of going up again, I'm just gonna dive after him and try to go into a bit of a raid. Now I am gonna get the shot right here, but we're just going to get hits again. And the fight that I'm forcing right here is not in my advantage. But I need to wrap this up quickly because in a 1v2 this thing will absolutely fall apart. Now luckily the Heinkel 112 extends and tries to get away from us. And we just get a bunch of hits again. And these guns are really doing me dirty at this point. And there is another BF-109 coming in. Now I need to cool my engine, but I can't really, because I need to wrap this up as quick as I can. And if I start not wepping here, I'm gonna go 200 and I am never gonna catch this Heinkel 112. I will need to kill him. I feel like he's gonna turn around the second I turn around, so I want to just kill him right here. And we just get a bunch of hits again. And it just does absolutely nothing. Incredible. Now I'm out of ammo, my engine is overheating and it doesn't really matter what happens anymore. I'm just gonna try to take as many guys down with me as I can. And I mean, it's looking pretty rough. Now luckily the Heinkel 112 in the background is going for an AI, so I can actually 1v1 the BF-109. And I'm just trying to stay below him. I need to actually web while staying slower because this thing is so underpowered. We finally cooked the engine. And luckily for us, the BF-109 is kind of EP. He sees his house and he is going to take a nap. Then we completely survive against the other 2 guys that now turn around and are definitely not behind us. And we go into the next game. We are above basically everyone, which is a good position to be in, especially when you don't have a working engine. And we are just gonna start working from top to bottom. We see multiple guys below us and I see that they dive out, so I'm gonna peel off. I don't want to sacrifice all of my energy. The second you go over 400 kilometers an hour in this thing, you are just wasting energy. So I try to climb as much as I can while not wasting all of my time. Heinkel 112 comes in on the front. We have 2 guys on the left. What do we want to do? We just want to go vertical. Right now we are in a decent position to kill all of these guys, and I'm not actually using the tracer belts anymore, which means that when I shoot them, they might actually disassemble and die. Heinkel 112 pitches up, so we are gonna take this opportunity to dive straight in and kill him. We don't want to go too fast for too long, but you know, if he doesn't die, we kind of have to commit a little bit harder. BF-109B comes in, he doesn't have the energy to deal with us. I get a little bit of separation before I start pulling over his nose. He manages to hit like a singular shell, but it's 8mm. And again, he doesn't have the energy. So we just go straight up, we stall him out, we drop the flaps. And we should be able to just pull into the shot very easily and shoot him down. Small burst directly in the cockpit, perfect for us. G50 comes in. Now it's a 2v1, G50 is pretty maneuverable, so I'm just gonna full send it into the head-on. I missed all my rounds at the start there, very shit aim, but you know, sometimes you just have to take it. And this was one of those instances, because if he survives past the head-on and he turns around and I have to also deal with these BF-109s, my game is literally over. We shoot at him, we roll out, he hits us in the cockpit because he's shooting straight and not actually adjusting. Should have expected such a thing from a level 5. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, that wasn't a snarky remark. I should have just expected that from a low level. Flying like you do at higher tiers, at low tier, very often gets you killed. So you have to just adjust accordingly to the, well, kind of unpredictable, predictable nature of the lower levels. Now this guy just turns in front of me. I'm not entirely sure what that was. I try to turn into your enemies. If you run into an enemy, don't try to turn out, because you are going to give them a lot of position. Now he turns out, then goes for our squad mate, our teammate. But we should be able to chase him right here. And the second he starts going for the P36, we should be able to close the gap. Another BF-109 on R6, that's the one that we severed, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not really too worried about him as of just yet, but I also don't want to give him the freest shot imaginable when I end up going 200 kilometers an hour directly in front of his guns. I'm gonna wait for my teammate to turn away from me. I'm gonna look at what the enemies are gonna be doing, and the second I see what they are doing, I'm going to re-engage. I don't want to turn it into a head-on when I'm going 200 kilometers an hour, especially against a plane that might actually have better weapons than me. Luckily for us, he has also EP, takes a nap under the tree, and the second one gently parks it in front of his friend's house. And that is also going to be kill number 5, I think it was. Or is it 6? I cannot remember. It doesn't really matter, at the end of the day, this plane is French. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.